Alright, hey guys, so I'm going to show you how to do the laws of exponents. So today we're just going to be looking at integers as our base, but as we move forward, eventually our standard is to do this with variables, but I wanted to start with integers just to go over the different rules. So for this section, you've been given an example problem. That's the blue problems that I'm going to work through, and then a U-try. The U-tries are the yellow problems, and when you go to do this on your own, you're going to fill in these two boxes for the U-tries. You don't need to retype the rule. Okay, if one of the orange equation boxes disappears, you can always add an equation, and I'll show you how to do that, or you could click here to see, and to see how to make the various types of equations, you can watch this video, which is already on there. So, alright, so first is the product rule. So remember, a product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So basically, here is the problem, and it says 5 raised to the third power times 5 to the second power. So just a quick review, 5 raised to the third power means 5 times itself 3 times, okay? I'm actually going to insert an equation. So I go to insert equation just to make it a little easier. So I'm going to do 5, and then up here I like to use the dot for multiplication, times 5 times 5. So that's 5 to the third. I'm going to put it in parentheses, but because this is all multiplication and because of the commutative property of multiplication, it doesn't really matter if there are parentheses, or sorry, the associative property. It's all being multiplied anyways, so you really don't have to have the parentheses, but I'm going to put it there just for clarity's sake. So we have 5 to the third times 5 squared. That's the same as 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. So the simplified version of that is going to be 5 to the 5th power. And just so you guys know, if you want to raise something to a power when you're doing your equation, you will have to hold shift and the 6 key. If some of you guys might already know this, but you know, above the 6 key, that's called a caret. It's kind of like an upside down V. You would hold that, and then it would give you the exponent. Okay? And so the rule for this one, if you notice, 3 and 2. What do you think happens to 3 and 2 to give you 5? Think about it for a sec. Right, you would add 3 and 2 together. So the rule here is to add the exponents. Okay, so that's the first example. Alright, next example, 5 to the 5th over 5 squared. So this one might be a little trickier to show, but I'm going to insert equation. And if you want to do a fraction, you do this, a over b. Okay, and so in the numerator, I need 5 to the 5th. So I need 5 times 5 times, and you don't have to do this every time. Usually I would just copy and paste, but just so you guys can see, I'm going to keep typing it over and over. Okay, so that's 5 to the 5th in the numerator, and then when I go to the denominator, I need to have 5 squared. So 5 times 5. Okay, first I'm going to make that font a little bigger so that everybody can see. Well, I think I need to highlight the whole box. There we go. Okay, so for this, I wish that this was more aligned, but basically we know any number over itself is 1. So 5 over 5 becomes 1, or basically it kind of like disappears. So because I can't strike a line through it, I'm just going to change the color. Oops. I wonder if it'll let me do that. I don't know if it's going to let me do it. Let me see if I can highlight. Okay, well then we're just going to have to imagine it. This 5 and this 5 would cancel, as some people have heard, or it becomes 1, as truly mathematically what happens. So this 5 and this 5 cancel, this 5 and this 5 would cancel, so we would be left with 3 5s in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. And remember, anything over 1 is itself, so the answer to this one is going to be, I can just hit the new equation button, 5 to the third. Okay. Okay? So, if we look, what do you think happens to 5 and 2 to get 3? We subtract, okay? So the rule here is to subtract the numerator. This is really important. The numerator, because you can end up with a negative, from numerator exponent. Ooh, I'm wording that incorrectly. I need to subtract the denominator exponent from the numerator exponent, right? So I subtracted 2 from 5 to get 3. Okay, so that's 5 to the third. Let's see if I can make that one bigger. And this one, so everybody can see. Alright, moving right on. So power to a power. So 5 to the third, that whole quantity squared. So I'm going to do a new equation. 5 times 5, and I'm going to start copy and pasting. So that's 5 to the third. And remember, anything squared means times itself. So this quantity squared means this quantity times this quantity again. So 5 to the third squared. Okay, and that would give me 5 to the sixth. Okay, what do we do with 3 and 2 to get 6? Alright, we would multiply. Sorry if y'all can hear my roommate. She's a teacher too, so she's trying to talk to people. So the rule, the power to a power, right? This is a power being raised to another power. The power to a power rule is that you will multiply the exponents. Make this a little smaller because it's not totally fitting in the box. Alright, next one. So notice for these, the bases have been the same, right? The bases here are 5 and 5. The bases here are 5 and 5. Base here is 5. Okay, now here we have a 5 and a 2. So we're going to see what happens. Remember, you're not going to be able to just combine these, okay? So this one is 5 times 2 to the third. So I'm actually just going to copy straight from in here. I'm going to take away that exponent. 5 times 2 to the third power. So that whole quantity times itself 3 times. So I have that's 1 time, now 2 times. Remember, when parentheses are right next to each other, that means multiplication anyways. Okay, so make that a little bigger. Okay, so now we can look. We have 5, 5, 5. We have 3 5s, so that's going to be 5 to the third power times, and then we have 3 2s, so 2 to the third power. Okay, and so for this one, the rule is just going to be that we distribute the exponent to both terms in the parentheses. Okay, so that is our product. This is the product being raised to a power. Alright, next is a quotient to a power. So this is 2/3 to the third power. So there's a couple different ways I could show this. I'm just going to show it as a fraction. Actually, I can just copy and paste. Okay, so we're going to have 2/3 times, oh, that's not what I want. You'll notice that it's a little hard with the formatting, but you just need to be patient. 2/3 times, and then I can just copy and paste to make it a little faster. So that's 2/3 to the first, 2/3 squared, and 2/3 to the third. Okay, that's 2/3 to the third power. So over here, you notice our rule for multiplying with fractions is you multiply straight across. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 to the third. Gotta make it a fraction. 2 over 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 to the third. Okay. And so again, kind of similar to the product to a power rule, the rule here is to distribute the exponent to the numerator and the denominator. Okay, we're almost done with this section. So the last one here is going to be the zero property rule. Okay, so this one is going to be kind of weird in its explanation because I'm going to use another one of the rules to prove this rule. Okay, so I'm going to be using the quotient rule to prove this rule because my goal is to have an exponent of 0. So what I can do is, based on the quotient rule, I know that if I have 5 to the first over 5 to the first, okay, this is equivalent. Let me get bigger. This is equivalent to 5 to the 0 power because 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, so these are equivalent because 1 minus 1 is 0. But guess what? Any number over itself always equals what? Okay, think of it like 2 over 2 or 3 over 3. Those are always equivalent to 1. So if 5 to the first over 5 to the first is equivalent to 5 to the 0 power, and any number over itself equals 1, then that means a number raised to the 0 power equals 1. So my answer here is simply 1. Okay? And the rule is any number raised to the 0 power equals 1. I'd like it to not be taking up so much space. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to stop here because this video is getting kind of long. But basically you just need to go back through, and if you even want to copy and paste my equations and just replace them with your numbers, you could do that too, but you need to fill in all of these. Notice that the numbers are different, okay, but you need to do these examples. I know this is pretty time consuming, and you have the Google form after this that you need to do, so that's why I'm giving you guys 2 days. Now, there's going to be a second video because we are not done with all of this yet. We've done section 1. Now there's another property. This is an 8th grade property, but we need to start looking at negative exponents, and I'm going to talk you through that, and then you will have a U-try, and then you'll do a Google form quick check. Alright, so I'm going to stop this video here so that you guys can try this part 1.